guys, Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com here with another match with Soul Sisters. This hand, unfortunately, is going to be mulligan. Way too many out of the pures. I mean, if this had, like, this was a land, I would think about keeping this as it's very powerful with special possessions, but triple onto the pure is not something you want to see. So I'm going to mulligan this. And much better hand. We have a Soul Sisters, a Path to Exile, special possessions. Nice little curve here. Alright, Champion can just shut down plenty of decks in the format. So we're going to keep it. So let's see what we're up against. It's going to be Affinity, which is a pretty easy matchup except for Inkmoth Nexus. Luckily for us, we do have the Path to Exile for the Inkmoth Nexus. So I'm okay with this. I'm going to be not taking that much damage next turn, as it's just unless he goes Cranial Plating here. But he didn't have a Mox Opal, so he didn't quite have the best Affinity draw ever. Again, I'm only going to be taking 1 damage, or 2 damage here from the Ornithopters. Well, now more with the Arcbound Ravager. Now this is... yeah, this is... he's got a pretty decent hand with Arcbound Ravager, but the way he's going to win is through Infect, and I'm not going to let him do that. So I think I have to always keep a Path to Exile up. So I'm just going to Soul Warden and gain another life and keep that path up for when he decides to go crazy with Inkmoth Nexus. There's a Springleaf Drum that sort of helps out. He needs a Cranial Plating. Yep, he's going to activate the Inkmoth Nexus. And we'll go to Block Step, see if he wants to do anything. And we will path it. So we'll path to Exile the Inkmoth Nexus. That's going to really hurt him, especially if he isn't playing any non-basics. He'll be able to sacrifice the Arcbound Ravager. Okay, yeah, but then he doesn't get a land. So I don't know if that's even the right line of play here. Okay, he didn't sacrifice it. So he did go get that basic land. But now, without a Cranial Plating with the Inkmoth out of the way, we're in pretty good shape. Especially with the Pridemate coming out here. I think that a Pridemate is going to be a bit more powerful, because this puts pressure on him. And we'll just say yes to all these triggers. And again, a 4/4 is hard for Infect. He can Galvanic Blast it, but he's really got 1 turn to do that. Then he's got to use a Galvanic Blast on a... I should have attacked there. That was definitely my bad. But he'd have to use a Galvanic Blast on a Giant's Pridemate rather than my face. And let's see if that's what's going to go down. Yes, okay. But that's still 4 damage, and he's only swinging in for, again, 2 damage most likely. And Soul Artifact, that's another way the deck can beat us, but we do have Spectral Processions to block for a long time once we get that mana source. And again, it's going to be hard for him to deal enough damage to actually outrace Soul Sisters. Depending on what I draw, I might go onto the pure. He's very vulnerable to another Path to Exile. Guess he's debating how he wants to swing in. There's not much debate. He's swinging in here for 7. But alright, Champion will hit, and then that's another 2 life that we're going to absorb. And then if we get that other land, of course, Spectral Procession is going to put out Spirits, which is going to gain us an obscene amount of life. And he's running out of cards here. He has a lot of dead cards he can draw into, like Mox Opals. Sideboard gets so much better for us. He adds in like Whip Flare, but we add in some really, really good cards. So I'm going to take 7 here, go to 13. But I need to start swinging with these Soul Sisters. That was a mistake on my part last turn. I hope I don't lose by 2 damage. So really no dead draw here. Honor the Pure is okay. Gives us an Arch Champion, which, you know, if he casts any other creatures, gains us life. Puts us back up to a 15. And at this point, we do attack in. That Ensoul Artifact is very scary at this point. We absolutely need to hit that Spectral Procession mana. Oh, jeez. Double Ensoul Artifact, double Ornithopter. Yeah, that's the way you win. And at this point, he could sacrifice or put a +1/+1 counter on the Arcbound Ravager. He just sacrifices Springleaf Drum. I have to take it. No, that's just, I'm just dead here. So I just lose here because I totally spaced how much life I was at. So that's 12, 13, 14, sacrifice the Springleaf Drum 15 to put a counter on it. So we'll just go on to match number 2. Double Ensoul Artifact. He's playing a very, very vulnerable deck to Path to Exile. Really had the cards he needed to pull this off. And yep, that's exactly 15. So anyway, would have drawn into that. So if I would have blocked, then I would have gained life. It might have just been a losing battle by that point, by the time we actually... Return the Rakes might have got us back in it, though. So misplay on my part. Again, Affinity, this is a very easy matchup. Now we bring in even more cards that really, really mess him up, like Stony Silence and Sundering Growth. I'll bring in the other 2 Path to Exiles. The cards that don't need to be in here. Return of the Ranks is actually quite weak in this matchup. And everything else is fine, though. The entire rest of the lineup, I just don't think I even need Martyrs is the thing. We'll go down to 1 Martyr, and I can cut out like one of the Soul Sisters, I'm sure. Might be a little bit overkill. Arc Champion survives Whip Flare, so I like to keep it in. But maybe Arc Champions are kind of weak in here. I could bring a Suppression Field. It doesn't affect a lot of things, but it does affect that Arcbound Ravager. And Pay No Heed's actually kind of good in this one, because if he goes he goes all onto one target, like the Arcbound Ravager, sack everything, put it on one thing, I can really just mess him up. Terminus is also okay, but I'd really want to rely on miracling it. So again, I don't have to get too fancy. This is a pretty straightforward matchup, and it's pretty favorable. So yes, I like to play first. This is very good. Very, very good against him. It's got the Spectral Processions on the Pure, which is a nightmare. It's got a first turn Soul Attendant. I can get rid of whatever he Ensoul Artifacts and really punish him for that. And I can safely honor the Pure next turn. So he goes Blink Moth and Vault Scourge, and I will gain a life. And yes, absolutely going to be honor the Pure. Tack in. And we'll start throwing out the Spectral Processions. Now, Whip Flare is very, very rough at this point. I do have to worry about if he does have a red source. But he's just going to get blown out by destroying this with the Sundering Growth. And we will use it right now. Gets 2 for 1. Attacking for 2. And still pretty good shape. So he's really far away from actually Metalcraft here. There's the Ravager. I can gain a life. We will gain a life. But still no Metalcraft. Now, the only way I lose this is I start flooding out or I lose to a Whip Flare. So I will put a Soul Warden. Again, I'm really stretching here against a Whip Flare. But if he does not answer this soon, he's just dead. If he's down to a 17, I'm up to a healthy 24. And I do have to worry about the Ink Moth because, again, he's got this kind of Arcbound Ravager, sack everything. And in Soul Artifact on an Arcbound Ravager, that's fine. And I can take life all day long. I go down to a 20. I don't even know if I overextend here or if I just start beating down. If he had a Whip Flare, I think he would have used it, though. So he's going to sacrifice it for that Arcbound Ravager. He really just wants to kill a Soul Warden. Now he can't generate red mana, so I'm free to go crazy here. And overextend. Yeah, I think that's fine. So we'll Soul Warden. And Spectral Procession again. And I hope, if I get blown up by Whip Flare, that's definitely not the right play. As we just hold it back. But let's see if it is. Again, he's got to have the red mana source, which could have another Mox Opal in his hand, and that's why he sacked it. But nope, didn't think so. So even Celestial Flare seems pretty decent against this deck. Yeah, it does. I'm going to bring in Celestial Flares, and we're just going to take out a couple more Auric Champions. They're just kind of slow versus this deck. And I think the Celestial Flares actually do more, so I'm going to submit this. Especially if he goes that in Soul Artifact on a Darksteel Citadel. It gives us another way to kill it. Most likely he's going to side out those in Soul Artifacts. They're really only good as turn 2 on an Ornithopter versus me with no removal or on an Ink Moth Nexus. But again, Soul Sisters, the way I've got this built has a lot of answers through Sundering Growth and through Path to Exile. Soul Artifact also has the downside of putting them further back for their Metalcraft, and it does come. I've read some articles on Affinity and on the pros and cons. I think that the consensus is that in Soul Artifact is worth putting in Affinity, but I do know some people that don't like the Soul Artifact route because of that very reason that it does set you back. You can get clunked up with it, and you can get 2 for 1. Right now, I think against decks like Delver, it might be okay, but you have to worry about Vapor Snag. Vapor Snag does get rid of your Soul Artifact. And yeah, I think that the better route in the format, with Vapor Snag being so prevalent and Path to Exile being so prevalent, would be to go the old school, even old school Shrapnel Blast route. Well, unfortunately, this is how you lose games in Modern. Well, in Magic is the mulligan. So hopefully I can. Yeah, we'll keep it. This is actually a very good hand against him, unless he just goes crazy. So I mean we had a Stony Silence in hand. Of course, no lands to cast it. Stony Silence just absolutely wrecks Affinity. They can't do anything. They can't activate any of their guys. I guess that's one. And Soul Artifact doesn't worry about the suppression field as much as the other version, but I'm with all the decks like shocking themselves and like fetch shock Gitaxian Probe first turn, Shrapnel Blast just becomes that much more powerful in a format where your opponent starts at 15 life. Oh, there's another path. This is going to be pretty good, especially if he does Insular Artifact. We can safely just Soul Attendant. And there's Glimmer Void, Cranial Plating, and he's going to attach the Cranial Plating. So far so good. Just attacking with the Soul Attendant, get him down to a 19. I do need to draw into something. I do need threats. I can't play this whole route of every one of his cards is a massive Cranial Plating, so I will use the Celestial Flare. Make him sack that. And it looks like a Vault Scourge is going to come out here. And he's going to attach it. So 5-1. We can path that next turn. Again, these lands have got to stop. We will be able to cast Rangers now and cast cards with Rangers. But I guess eventually those Thought Casts are going to get there. Cranial Plating again makes everything a threat. Makes that Inkmoth Nexus a threat. He's going to be able to go get a land with this Path to Exile. So anything but a land here, I'm fine. Honor of the Pure is still not that great, but it is a card that's not a land. And it makes my Spectral Processions that much better. And I hope he does Galvanic Blast here. Just get a card out of his hand. Soul Attendant's not that relevant. He tears, that's okay too. If I draw into a Stony Silence, he doesn't have a tear for it anymore. I'm pretty sure what he's going to do is activate Inkmoth Nexus and equip the Cranial Plating to it. And, well, that actually is going to win the game. Because now I don't have an answer for the Inkmoth Nexus Cranial Plating, unless I can draw into a Spectral Procession. But that is life. That's what happens when you mulligan to, a 6 and then draw lands. That's game. A little frustrated here, very frustrated. But this matchup is very winnable. He just activates and win here. Low land count, but Empty Joe, when it does this garbage, is very frustrating. We finally have the Spectral Processions coming down a little ways, but he drew pretty perfectly to deal with our threats here. With the getting that last Path to Exile, I mean, he would have to draw out of that, find like another Inkmoth Nexus or something if we would have been able to path it. But still, it would have been, 4 turns in a row with lands before we could hit Spectral Procession. So we could easily have lost just to him finding any other threat. So the bunched up lands gets us. But again, we'll try to queue up fast here and try to find this matchup again. This is Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com. Thanks for watching.